Well, everybody, from wherever you're joining from today, I'm just truly humbled and grateful to you for joining us. The Parliamentary Network brings together about 2,000 parliamentarians in about 140 countries. And right now we are working so hard to create country chapters around the world so that parliamentarians in every country can have their own platform to work with the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. I cannot think of a more important chapter for us to be launching right now than the parliamentary chapter for Ukraine. So it's a great honor for me to be able to welcome you to the Parliamentary Network family today. I think about you every day. I have, some of you know, I have on my phone I think if we can just pick that up on the camera. So I have the Ukraine air raid warning app on my phone, and whenever that goes off, I think about you, my colleagues, in the jobs that you're doing. I think about the kindness with which you hosted me and my colleagues in your Parliament building in Kyiv. I think about the struggle. I think about your courage. I think about your bravery, and I think about the road to come. And as much as anything else today, I wanted just to make sure that we sent you a message that we stand shoulder to shoulder with you, and we will think creatively and innovatively and constantly about how we can help you in the months and the years to come. It was back in 1941 that the Allies gathered together to sign the Declaration of War Aims, which became known as the Atlantic Charter. And that charter included something written by the leader of my party, Clement Attlee, it's about 2 o'clock in the morning, actually, in 1941. And it's Article 5 of the Atlantic Charter. And this is what it says. It says, the Allies desire to bring about the fullest collaboration between all nations in the economic field, with the aim of securing for all improved living standards, economic advancement, and social security. It was then just 3 years after that President Roosevelt welcomed the world to Bretton Woods, where he welcomed people with confidence and hope. And he said that the economic concerns of every country, near and far, are rightly the concern of every country. And that's how we very much feel about the job that you've got underway in Ukraine. So it's a tremendous honor to welcome you to the Parliamentary Network family today. I'm really grateful to Gagana and our team in Paris at the Parliamentary Network, to our colleagues in the World Bank, they're hosting you in Vienna, and to our colleagues from the International Monetary Fund. But I could talk all afternoon about how much I love you. So I'm going to just shut up now and hand the floor over, I hope, to Dmytro and then to Yaroslav.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Actually, here in Ukraine, we have 2 Ukrainian parliamentarians now visiting us. And I think, just go ahead.
If I'm not mistaken, my colleague Dmitry Nataluka was the first.
No, I also Dmitry, so maybe they mixed.
Oh yeah, so I am or Dmitry. You might
hear? Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. Please start.
Yeah, thank you. I'll be very short. Liam, thank you very much for pulling this together. I think this is of paramount importance for everyone to witness the launch of this initiative, of this group. We do understand that given the circumstances, given the overall damage, there is no way Ukraine is pulling out of this alone. And for us, your kind assistance and help is of utmost importance. So once again, I would like to thank all our international partners, all the donor countries, everyone who feels deeply and who delivers daily to approach the victory over tyranny and over this unimaginable and absolutely unjust aggressor. So without further ado, I will pass the floor to Yaroslav. Thank you again, everyone, for making this happen. I think we have a long way to go, and this is a very important, critical step, the first step we're taking today. Thank you.
Brilliant, Dmytro, thank you so much. Over to Yaroslav, I think.
Okay, I will try to be also short. thank you for once again for organizing this chapter, and World Bank for hosting us in Vienna. At least we have electricity and could connect on this meeting. Working with IMF and World Bank was very important even before the war, and we have a good cooperation in different spheres. And as we saw in the beginning of war, thanks for a lot of reform which was in our obligations, our banking system, our financial system, our whole economy survived the first days of war, and it's because we have done our homework together with World Bank and IMF. So it is very important. And of course, it will be much more sufficient and important after our victory, which I believe will be soon. Rebuilding, reconstruction of Ukraine will be our joint task. And that's why I'm proud to be here and with you and on the launching of our Parliament group. I want to present the members of our group. Unfortunately, not everyone could connect now. As you know, we in Ukraine have a little problem with electricity and mobile connections. But the majority of our group find out some internet and joined this meeting. We represent different parties and different committees, but together we understand the importance of our cooperation. The Mr. Danil Yitmantsev, he's the representative of the coalition and the head of one of the biggest committee in Verkhovna Rada on tax, banking, financial issues, custom issues. So a lot of agenda of World Bank or IMF is considered in his committee. I'm the first deputy of the same committee, and I'm representative party of Follows. As well, Dmitry Natalucha, who started our part from Ukraine. He's the head of economic committee, and it's also very important committee in some different sphere, for example, corporate governance or public procurement. And Alexei Movchan, who also now called today, is one of the representative and deputy head of this committee, as well as Roxolana Pedlasa. She, with very high probability in the next plenary meeting, become the head of budget committee. This is also very important, as you understand, for further cooperation between Ukraine and international financial institution, as well as Maxim Khlapuk. He is representative of committee on energy and energy services. He is joined this committee not so far ago, but he before represented one of the biggest state-owned enterprise, Naftagaz, and now he is a member of the parliament, as well as Olga Koval. He's also in Vienna in our meeting offline. She represents the committee on science and education. And Lesa Vasilenko, I'm not sure if she was able to join today, but I don't see her in the list of participants. She is also representative of important committee of ecology and protection of natural resources. So as you see, we tried for this month to combine our group with gender neutrality, and as well to represent not only one sphere but different sphere, which will be very important on issues we will deal in the future regarding the IMF agenda or World Bank agenda. Last but not the least, I'm sure that there is a lot of topic which we will discuss in the future. And what I sure could sure that all members of our group already have done a lot of things for implementation of different Ukrainian obligations and plans, and you could count on us for help in advocacy and developing and promoting the agenda, and could conduct not only such big meeting, but we could share personal contacts, and you could contact directly if you need some help immediately. We have a good experience in cooperation once again with IMF representatives and World Bank, and hope that creation of our chapter will even increase this cooperation. Thank you.
Yaroslav, thank you so much indeed, and thank you for taking us through the willing volunteers that you've managed to get onto the committee. That really is fantastic. So it's a pleasure now for me to welcome our colleague Carlos Smits from the World Bank, lead economist and program lead for the for economic policy in Eastern Europe. And then we'll come to Barem from the IMF. But Carlos, let me hand the floor to you first. Thanks so much for joining us, and thanks for organizing things there in Vienna.
Thank you. Good to be with this important group. I think first of all, the World Bank and everybody, all staff, are with the people of Ukraine from the first very days of this Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine. And I think we are an international institution of reconstruction and development created after the Second World War. We are a development institution, and the key of the development is peace and freedom. And it's important to be with this group of the people, because you are kind of representing the democracy, very democracy that people try to defend, which is parliamentarians. I think it's also to recognize that even during the work, you continue to work and do your functions as a parliamentarians. And I think it was also collaboration with the World Bank. I want to stress one important thing is, obviously Ukraine needs a lot of help, but your country's systems, in order to absorb that help, needed modifications, for example, in the budget code. And in April, during the war, a budget committee approved the changes in the budget code that allow to absorb into the budget grants that the US government, for example, is providing to Ukraine. And this is an important example of that. Parliamentarians did their work to help within existing legal framework of Ukraine, so as the integrity during the war, that this money could help benefit to people of Ukraine. And I think we will continue that collaboration. There's a long way ahead, and I think a lot of laws will need to be strengthened, particularly as Ukraine is going to the new chapter, is to become a full member of European Union. A lot of legal changes will need to be done in labor code and etc. And we'll stand with the people of Ukraine and parliamentarians to do this effort. And thank you for organizing, and we'll continue our collaboration. Thank you.
Perfect, Carlos, thank you so much. And just thank you for underlining the trajectory that we're on here. Ukraine is going to be part of the European Union, and it's our collective task to make sure that those economic reforms are in place as quickly as possible to ensure that that happens as fast as possible. Barem from the IMF, over to you.
Thank you. First, it's good to see you all, and I'd like to thank the Parliamentary Network for organizing the event. But first of all, I'd like to express my greatest sympathy to the people and the government of Ukraine in these extremely difficult times. And I'd like to reiterate that the IMF will continue supporting Ukraine in its ongoing shift from emergency phase of economic management towards recovery phase. And we will also help Ukraine set the stage for a successful reconstruction of the economy. The Ukrainian authorities have done an impressive job in managing the economy through extremely challenging circumstances. And they have adopted policies to navigate very large and very complex shocks. I would also like to welcome the launch of the Ukrainian chapter of the Parliamentary Network. As the IMF resident representative, I'm always available for outreach with various stakeholders. And in the past, I have had useful interactions with several members of Ukraine chapter. And I'm always ready, available, and we look forward to our future interactions. Let me speak a bit about our partnership as an institution with Ukraine. We have built very strong relations with Ukraine over the years, as different programs supported by the IMF have helped the authorities achieve macro-financial stability after large shocks, helped to return economy to growth, and implement important structural reforms that would lay the foundation for future growth. And I think Yaroslav mentioned that many of these reforms have made Ukrainian economy resilient, and we have seen when the war broke out this resiliency, and we continue seeing this resiliency. So from the first day of Russia's invasion, we have been supporting the Ukrainian authorities' macroeconomic policies, both with our expertise and financing. The immediate focus of our work, as many of you know, has been to help Ukrainian authorities with their emergency economic policy measures, and also address the near-term financing gaps that Ukraine has been facing. Since the war broke out, the fund has provided about $2.7 billion in 2 emergency financing programs. Last one was disbursed in mid-October. Also, the fund has set up the administered account, which allows different donor countries to securely channel their financial support to Ukraine using IMF's payment infrastructure. And to date, about $2.2 billion have been disbursed through this channel, and more is expected in the near future. Let me speak a bit about challenges that we see, and first of all, in terms of economic situation, and also I'd like to touch briefly on the outlook. Russia's invasion of Ukraine continues to have a devastating social and economic impact on the country. The fiscal deficit has ballooned to accommodate the necessary and very large expansion of defense spending. We have seen very high inflation. We have seen abandonment of inflation targeting regime and fixing the exchange rate by the National Bank of Ukraine. And for 2022, unfortunately, we expect a very large contraction in real output in Ukraine of about 1/3 of real output, equal to about 1/3 of real output. And the war continues to create major challenges for Ukraine, its people, and its policymakers. The next few months we see as are expected to be very challenging as the winter takes its toll on the economy and Russia continues targeting critical energy infrastructure. In terms of economic outlook, for next year, we have revised down our growth projection to about 1% in real terms. And at the same time, I'd like to mention that the uncertainty around the economy remains very high. A few words about our most recent engagement with Ukraine. The authorities, as you know, have requested program monitoring with board involvement, which we call the PMB in short. We had mission very recently in November, meetings with the authorities. I'd like to mention the dedication by staff of Ministry of Finance and National Bank of Ukraine to 7 days a week and very long hours during these discussions and negotiations. And we have reached a staff level agreement on this new program, and we are working on finalizing this hopefully very soon. This program will help to provide a framework, macro framework that would anchor macroeconomic policies and catalyze more donor support to Ukraine. And the strong program implementation under the PMB would help pave the way towards a full-fledged IMF-supported program. Let me stop here.
Well, Varam, that was a superb overview and succinct. So thank you, and thank you for setting out with such clarity and starkness the scale of the economic challenges that lie ahead. It has been truly humbling to watch how civil servants across Ukraine have just had to work round the clock in order to ensure the economy is given the support it's needed. And that's why we think this parliamentary chapter can add such important political space, particularly as we run into some of the discussions that we've got to have next year. We're proud to say here in London for the next stage of the reconstruction conferences. So we have budgeted a little bit of time in our agenda today for a quick Q&A and discussion if people would like to take that opportunity. All I would say is that from the global network's point of view, our job now is to help make sure that we're supplying to you as a new chapter the capacity and the connections that you need in order to do your jobs effectively and to maximize the use of this platform that we're creating today for parliamentarians with the World Bank and the IMF. And so as we move through December and into January, have a think about what are the things that your members would find most useful. It could be training, it could be capacity building, it could be briefing, it could be meeting, just have a think and in your own time come back to us as to what you think would help us add the most value to your work. But if there's any kind of questions or issues that people want to flag at this stage now, please just wave or put something in the chat and I will do my best to bring you in. Great, I can see Alexei first. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to meet you today, to meet all of the colleagues, all of the representatives of international institutions, World Bank, IMF. We, from the beginning of our term, we worked a lot with the issues that are part of the relations of Ukrainian state and international financial institutions. And we still, and even during the war, we still continue to implement, or I would say we are trying to continue to implement the reforms that have been the subject of discussions and relations. It's about the reforms regarding the lowering the influence of the state on the economy, and most of a lot of time we spent in our committee with Dmitro Natalucha and Roxolana Pedlasa on privatization issues, on the reforms of insolvency procedures, and we still continue to work on the insolvency and bankruptcy procedures with the World Bank representatives, and that is very important work that is done for us and the important consulting, because we do understand, we have our own war view on the situation inside the country, but we need somebody who can give good advices and head us in a right way, because sometimes when you are and the economy is in shock, some decisions can be done can be made in a wrong way. So we do cooperate and we search for extra cooperation. Ukraine is faces quite strong and difficult winter and difficult challenges regarding the Russian aggression. But meanwhile, Ukraine is becoming the new island for the prospective world perspectives and for investments and for another leader, I would say. So the perspectives are very high. So that is why we should together work on how to work with these perspectives, including the issues of absorbing support, international support, institutional development, because our institutions are unfortunately underdeveloped. So we have to continue to support them and manage with all the war challenges that Ukraine state and the Ukrainian officials, I mean bureaucrats, are facing now. So what can be done? First, we should go more deep together in the issues that are already on the table, and not like many international friends. They mostly speak about renovation, reconstruction, etc. But renovation and reconstruction, to my point of view, is the last mile. The middle and the beginning is the institutional structural reforms and institutional reforms. And when we are talking about, I don't know, any issue that is a subject of, for example, Ukraine IMF relations, we should start with the smallest things and continue to more wide. So when we are talking about, for example, insolvency procedures, and we have spoken with World Bank about this, we should reform all the parts of the system to make asset recovery procedures more efficient and more fast, especially when huge amount of Ukrainian entities are facing bankruptcy because of the war and because of the destruction. Yeah, so it's a small contribution. Yeah, that is why we have to create a plan, a common plan that we can implement on our level with your support and your advices, I would say.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you so much. And what you've just illustrated there so beautifully is the amount of expertise in frontline real world issues that sometimes can get missed out as an input into designing World Bank and IMF programs. And what we're finding as we create country chapters around the world is that it's that real world intelligence that is just so valuable for getting program design right. So thank you for getting that on the table. Great, right. Roxolana, over to you.
Hello, everyone. It's a huge pleasure to be at this meeting. My name is Roxolana Pedlasa. I'm currently Deputy Chair of Economic Development Committee. In my work, I'm responsible for anti-monopoly legislation, IPR, public procurement, and a lot of other different reforms. Regardless of future appointments, I would like to declare my commitment to this new chapter. And I think it is very important that we met and that we are establishing it, because I believe that the Parliament of Ukraine is unfortunately underrepresented in communication with IMF and World Bank. And it is important for us so that officials of both organizations understand what we are doing in terms of legislation, how we are thinking, and most importantly, what our constituents think about economic reforms that we implement, often in cooperation with IMF. It is also important for today, especially, and for future cooperation, for us to be accountable and transparent in budget expenditures, as this is the key to attracting further international aid. And we would very much be interested, and we welcome we would like to work with you on developing policies to ensure this transparency. And I believe that this parliamentary network could be instrumental in doing this. Very short and concise. Thank you.
Fantastic. No, great. Thank you so much. That's exactly what we're all about. Right. Anybody else who wants to come in at this stage? Okay, let me just hand back to Carlos and Varim then, just for any...
Excuse me, Liam.
Sorry, I didn't see you there. Yeah, over to you. Fire away.
Sure. That's okay. I haven't found the right button.
That's okay.
Well, my name is Maxim Khlapuk. Yaroslav Zheleznak has already said some words about me. I recently joined the Ukrainian parliament from Faction Golos and joined the energy community, energy committee, de facto the committee not only on energy but also on utility services. And First of all, thank you for inviting me on this Ukrainian chapter launch, and I am glad to overall join this parliamentary network on World Bank and IMF. As it was said by Mr. Stepanyan, Ukrainians are really facing harsh challenges since the full-scale Russian invasion in the February 2022. Russian aggressor aims not only on military infrastructure, but as well on civil and energy infrastructure. Likewise, it always seeks to destabilize our economy and financial system from one side and ruin our fruitful cooperation with IMF, World Bank, and Western democracies on the other side, in order to absorb Ukraine financially with non-military methods, as it de facto did with Belarus. That's why, while our armed forces successfully defend Ukraine on the military front, it is up to us and our responsibility to assure rational financial policy and continue implementing best practices of the Western democracies. Ukraine do rely on the support of democratic world, not only with financial support, but with support of mild pressure to continue our reforming our financial systems, and as I already said, reassuring our rational economic and financial policy. And it is also my commitment joining this parliamentary network to represent these best practices in Ukrainian parliament overall and in the energy sphere in particular. Thank you for attention.
Great, fantastic. Thank you so much. Right, yes, Daniil.
Yes. Thank you very much. I want to say a few words. First of all, thank Mr. Zhelezniak and you for organizing this meeting. And it is for sure that we appreciate help and support of IMF and World Bank, and today in our situation with the biggest war conflict in Europe from 1945, this support is necessary for us and very, very important. That's why thank you once more for what do you do for Ukraine today. Also, I want to stress that we are in collaboration future program with communication with Minister of Finance and representatives of IMF, and these negotiations shows that we have common approaches for reforming of Ukraine. We know what we should to do in 1 week, in 1 month, in 1 year, and we know that we know the list of these decisions which are necessary and important for Ukraine today. We know for sure that we want to be a part of European Union, and also our reforming is also in this direction. So we want to make our collaboration deeper. We are ready for these collaborations. We hear all advices of IMF, of World Bank regarding our reforming, regarding our changes, amendments to our laws, and do our best to make them as fast as possible. So thank you once more, and let's work together.
Brilliant, fantastic, thank you. What we are seeking to do is to maximize your power in moving ahead as a country, and it's truly our privilege to be able to help you in any way that we can. Right, anybody else wants to come in at this stage? Right, I think I've captured everybody. Okay, Bahram, any concluding thoughts and remarks, and give us a sense of when you think the IMF program may be finalized, because that may well be a good next step for this parliamentary chapter, to get something of a readout about that program. But don't let me prejudge what you might have to say by way of conclusion.
Thank you. Right now, as I mentioned, we are in discussions to finalize the staff level agreement that we have reached in November on the new program monitoring with board involvement. This is a monitoring program which the authorities have requested for a duration of 4 months. And the idea is that this program acts as a framework to implement policies in an unprecedented times of war, and also to show government's ability to implement measures under very challenging circumstances, and anchor macroeconomic policies, and also catalyze further donor support to Ukraine. And the aim is that the successful implementation of this program monitoring with board involvement would then pave the way for a full-fledged IMF program with a more standard type of including disbursement and conditionality and then longer term. So that's where we stand right now. And as I mentioned, we have been working very closely day and night, and I am optimistic that we will move forward, and we from our side, are committed to maintaining and further strengthening our very strong relations with Ukrainian authorities.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for just wrapping that up. And Carlos, from the World Bank's point of view, any final observations?
I think one key observation which was mentioned in the discussion is the role of transparency. And I think as a parliamentarians, you are this enforcers of transparency. And I'll give you a concrete example where actually that helped. The most immediate objective of the World Bank was to help the people of Ukraine to maintain continuity of the government, to deliver its social services and paying the wages of people in different ministries. And we use kind of a budget support mechanism. And as I mentioned, the grants that are coming through the US government, we already dispersed more than $13 billion to Ukraine through the budget existing systems. And I think this importance is most of this aid would come through the existing systems of Ukraine. We didn't create anything parallel. So it was to implement the budget law of this year that was approved by the parliamentarians. And I think this is this importance of transparency and the systems that you have a very important role to play to make sure that there is oversight and transparency of every dollar or hryvnia used, that it goes to these critical services, and this is also allows to generate the donor money that we receive from the United States government. So thank you for, and I think the same needs to continue in 2023, because a lot of budget expenditure that Parliament you approved will be financed by donors, and I think that transparency is very important. Thank you.
Great, right. Thank you so much. Okay, we've just got one more duty to perform now, which is that if everybody could just turn their camera on, we're going to have a very quick family photograph to commemorate the moment. And as we do that, let me just invite our Ukrainian chairs to offer us any final remarks that you might want to share. I don't know if we still have Dimitro. I can't see him on my screen. We may have lost him, but apologies if I can't see him. Otherwise, Yaroslav, any final remarks?
First of all, once again, thanks for organizing. It's very important for us, really. As you see, we want that our chapter from our part was workable, effective mechanism for joint cooperation. 3 heads of committee, several deputy heads of committee, and believe these people could and would help to make Ukraine more resilient, economically resilient, and more effective. I hope that in the nearest future we will have time to discuss what exactly will be in the agenda of World Bank and IMF. What exactly needed from our parliament to implement it. As you understand, we have different and sometimes very dangerous conditions of our parliament meetings, but it could not and should not stop any reform in our country, because we believe that soon will be the victory, and that's why we have to make our homework before that to meet the victory as effective as we can. So once again, I am thankful for all our members of our group to join today. I hope that, and I will ask the representative of IMF and World Bank to share what details, what exactly you need from the parliament in the nearest months, 3 months, half a year. And I already have an opportunity to spoke with the previous head of our group of this chapter in previous convocation of Parliament, Olga Belkova, and she advised to have some meetings on the concrete issues which will be in the agenda of the Parliament. And I hope that as soon as we receive these points and details, we organize such more detailed meetings regarding this these issues. So thank you, thanks for organizing, and I hope that we will see in the nearest future.
Brilliant. Well, I can't see Dimitro, but if Dimitro is on, please shout. No. In which case, that brings us to a conclusion, and it is my great privilege and it's my great honor to declare the Parliamentary Network chapter on Ukraine officially launched. Congratulations, everybody, and I really look forward to working with you on this over the months ahead. A huge thank you to the Parliamentary Network team, to Gagana, to Kofi, to Blythe, to Jim, to everybody that I will have missed, Pierre, Louis, Philippe, Tilla. Thank you to all of our colleagues in the IMF and the World Bank for helping make sure that this has happened today. All of us feel truly honored to have been part of this today, and we are truly committed to helping maximize its use to both win this war and to rebuild your country. Thanks so much indeed, everyone. Bye for now.
Bye.